Good evening, everyone. Can I please have a motion and a second to call the meeting of the Connecticut Board of Education to order? Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Can I please have a motion and a second to reconvene the public meeting? Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our servicemen and releases.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the district clerk please call the roll?
Eric Allen, President.
Here.
April Anatelli, Vice President. Present. Jackie DiLorenzo, Trustee. Present. Sarah Parisi, Trustee. Here. Melissa Torregrosa, Trustee. Present. Dr. Joseph Senmore, Superintendent.
Present.
Robert Hauser, Assistant Super for Business Operations.
Present.
Reza Kolahipur, Assistant Super for Admin and Personnel.
Hello.
Christina Poppy, Assistant Super for Curriculum and Instruction.
Present.
John Allen, Assistant for the Superintendent.
Present.
Lori O'Hara, Executive Director of Professional Development, Client Services, and Special Ed. Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the April 14, 2026 meeting? Motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So tonight we have a budget presentation to not, straight from Mr. Hauser. I will pass the floor on to you.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. So tonight we will be taking a look at final draft of the 2026-27 proposed budget. And in particular, we will be looking at expenditures and revenues. As we've always done, we've kept this calendar up to give everyone an idea of where we started. Now I highlighted in yellow where we are. The second line of this calendar, I keep moving the state legislative budget, which is the school aid final estimate. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but the state budget has still not been approved. Today or yesterday, they did the fifth extension on the state budget just to keep the state functioning, but unfortunately, we do not know our state aid final numbers. So we'll be presenting this final budget draft with really an estimate from the governor, and we'll show you another line that we put in the budget, which is an additional 1% foundation aid that we hope to get once the state budget is finally. So the third yellow line there is tonight, the board, there's a resolution on the agenda for the board to consider adopting the proposed budget. And then on May 5th, we will have a public budget hearing, and that will be followed by May 19th, the actual budget vote, as well as the school board trustee election. Okay, so here we are with the tax levy cap that everyone seems to refer to as the 2%. Ours is actually 2.12%. So depending upon each school district's figures that are entered into the state controller's formula, the number can be higher than that 2%, or it can be lower than that 2%. So ours came in at 2.12%. This slide here is just an example for the most part of how we go about calculating our tax cap. The controller's office provides the formula. They also provide the two key components, one of which is the tax base growth factor, and then a little further down, they provide the allowable levy growth factor. So all the other numbers, for the most part, are prior year numbers, and then a few other items are what we call capital exclusions to help us get down to the maximum amount of money that the state will allow us to collect from the residential homeowners as well as the commercial homeowners. So down at the bottom, there's a number called the proposed levy for the current year, and that's $148,790,217, and that's a 2.12% increase over the current school year's levy. And I'll just highlight at the very bottom, the controller's office wants to know any district throughout the state that intends to pierce the cap or override the cap. So we have answered that question, no. So we're not overriding any cap. Okay, so here is a slide that just shows what we initially thought our tax cap was going to be, which was all the way up to the top, the $147 million number, and that corresponds to a 1.45% increase. However, the tax cap formula allows for a district to consider capital projects. And when you enter those capital projects into the tax cap formula, it actually allows you to raise your cap. So this is a list of the projects that the district intends to complete in the next school year that we've itemized separately in the cap. So you can see that we broke them out into technology projects, and a little further down, we broke them out into plant and facilities projects. So by factoring those in, and the grand total of those is $971,931, it allows us to bring the cap up to that $148 million number, which is the 2.12%. This slide, which I think is a very important slide, we've had it up in every presentation since March. It shows, for the most part, up at the top, what our proposed expenditures are. Okay, and if you carry that all the way across to the green column, we're proposing to spend $230 million, if I'm reading this correctly, $328,468. Okay, which is a $1,269,000 increase, excuse me, from the current year, which represents a little bit more than a 0.5% increase, quite a small increase in the expenditure budget. The next section down are the proposed revenues. So these are the monies that we are proposing that will come in or be used at reserves to help pay for that $230 million expenditure budget. In the past, I've gone through each line here, all the way from miscellaneous revenues to how we intend to appropriate the fund balance, as well as all of the additional individual reserves. And towards the bottom, you can see the state aid figure in green. I've highlighted that's the 59,045,766. That's the number the governor proposed back in January. So it's up to the actually up to the state legislature to finalize that number. The next line that I highlighted in blue, that's the additional 1% in foundation aid that we are anticipating. For the most part, we're expecting it for a couple of reasons. Number one, last year when the governor came out with her budget, she proposed 1%. We actually got 2% in the end. So we're going along the lines of the same idea here that that additional 1% is going to be in the final state aid budget when it's determined.
And that's also because both houses and all the Senate legislature and their budget proposals, they're also proposing 2% foundation.
Thank you. So a little bit down, I have it a line there, amount to be raised by taxes. So if you carry that over into the green column, that's that $148,790,000 number. That's the actual tax cap. So we're going right to the tax cap, and that represents a 2.12% increase. So when you take a look at the next line down, our total revenues of $230 million, they equal the expenditures. So in yellow, for the most part, we can say we have a balanced budget. And then further down towards the bottom, based on the estimated assessed value or the actual latest assessed value, I gave 5 examples for homes, residential homes that are assessed in increments of $10,000. So everyone can see how much this proposed budget might cost a household. A house, for example, that's assessed at $10,000. If you carry it all the way over into the green, the total school taxes for that particular residence would be $2,152.30. And if you go one column over, that would be a $44.59 increase for that particular residential house for this budget. And follow the far right column coincides with that 2.12% increase. Okay. I've said it before, every residential home is different. Depends upon exemptions that a particular homeowner might have. So some might see their taxes go lower than 2.12. Some might see it go higher. However, on average, it should be 2%. That's school tax only. It's not the town tax. That's not the police. That's not the fire. It's just strictly the Kennequot School District. So balancing the budget, right? So all along, we've had a challenging situation here, trying to bridge what has been in that really $3 million area of a gap. And so what we've done, we've taken a close look in the reduction of any non-salaried codes, contractual codes, for example. We've taken a look at attrition of any current positions or any positions that we feel might open up. Third bullet there, accessing of 2 administrators.
I'll take it. In terms of bullet number 2, retirements across the board, whether it's administration, teaching, various facilities groups, custodial, maintenance, grounds, clerical, it's the attrition of fact, which refinements, resignations as well. And then there's the accessing component, to administrative positions, that are being accessed along with the elimination of several departmental positions to create consolidated director positions in the areas of humanities, math, science, technology, and pupil personnel services, trying to create an administrative structure that'll be sustainable into the future. Looking at our enrollment and our academic needs while maintaining very conducive class sizes. K-12, there is going to be accessing of instructional staff, 5 teaching positions, 4 elementary, 1 secondary, and the reduction of 4 other special areas that are listed above. Again, while still maintaining our academic programming and our very conducive class size of K-12. And then we also have the elimination of the non-instructional supervisory type positions and custodial and transportation.
I just would like to add something about, the community, we see on social media a lot where they're speaking about why we're cutting, who we're cutting, which programs we're cutting, and things like that. I think this falls under, for me, and this is what I call it, the kicking the can down the street. For many, many years, the budget, we've seen that we've had financial problems. So before COVID, the superintendent at the time suggested that we cut over 30 staff members, over 30. At the time, the majority of the board decided that they wanted to cut administration instead, and not the 30 positions recommended, but a few administrators, which we wound up having to hire back. As everybody knows, COVID came, we got a lot of state aid, federal money, different monies came in, and, we had what I'll call, the fake money for a little while. And we looked like we were doing well. But we just were kicking the can because eventually that money was going to run out. We weren't going to have the COVID money. We didn't make any cuts. The population was going down. And then when I came onto the board, the first year I was here, the superintendent and the cabinet suggested that we have to cut staffing. At the time, again, most of us didn't want to cut staffing. You get that personal component, and I'm owning it because you get the personal component, you feel bad. You don't want anybody to have to lose their job, and it doesn't matter if it's a teacher, a custodian, anyone. You just feel bad for anybody who's losing their job. So you try your best to save these jobs. But while you're saving these jobs, what we're doing is we're taking from our savings, our fund balance. And every year, throughout the years, we're constantly borrowing from the fund balance. So you take money out, and then at the end of the year, you say, how much money do I have left to put back into my savings? And if your money is not the amount that equals the amount you took out, that's a deficit. So now you have a deficit, and we have borrowed from the fund balance too much money, and we keep on borrowing, So this year we're projected to borrow a little over $13 million, and you're projected to put back in only $9 million. So that leaves you with the $4 million more or less deficit that you borrowed that money and it's not going to go back in. That fund balance, you keep on doing that, is not going to be there forever. So again, we're just kicking the can. If we do not make these cuts, and in my opinion, many more throughout the next few years, we are going to be in a position that there's this finality of that now all the cuts will be made at one time. We gradually need to get there. So I understand that, the community doesn't want to see cuts and they don't understand, and our staff doesn't understand, and everybody wants to save a job. I don't think there's one person out there who doesn't want to save people's jobs. But again, if the money is not there and we're constantly taking from what I'll call the savings account, it's not going to happen because eventually, as we all know from our own personal life, the money's going to be gone. So I just wanted to set that straight, that we can't just keep on borrowing from that fund. And wide cuts and programs and hard things had to be, decisions had to be made. And I can't just blame our cabinet. It's the boards too, and it's the boards throughout the year. It's not just our board. It's built up. This is not a problem that comes overnight. Thank you. So, April, I wasn't gonna do this, I'm not gonna make a speech right now, but I genuinely believe you're being disingenuous. Yes, clearly it's a form of kicking the can down the road. But the reason why we have been backed into a corner on essentially firing people is because it's not, as it says here, how do we bridge it? 3 million. It was $16.7 million in the red. Okay. And we just found that out essentially last week. At first it was 3.4, we were told, when it was actually, where we thought it was actually 5.6. Someone told me it was actually more than 10. And we've come to find out that at this juncture, because who knows what it'll be next week, it's 16.7 million. With no answers as to where that money went. Well, I hear what you're saying. That would be the norm. There's nothing normal about this. Every single one of us have asked innumerable questions. Show me where the money went. And to date, we have no answers. None. So the reason why people are being fired, which I won't be a party to, okay, until there are some real answers, is because we're $16.7 million in the red, unaccounted. Do you think that you could, you're gonna do it?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna start in Mr. Hauser. So what Ms. Parisi is referring to was preliminary run of both revenues and expenditures for February. But I'm gonna ask Mr. Hauser to kind of explain and talk through, how we got in a very quick period of time from that preliminary budget development to this point.
So as with any budget, the may typically start off with there's a significant difference between how much is to be spent versus how much revenue or income is coming in. So back on February 27th, and this is the number that Sarah is alluding to, when we ran, just go back. We ran similar report like this. That number that you see in yellow, which is Sierra, and Sarah highlighted it, 16,791,166. That was a preliminary budget, and so when we actually rolled out the first budget presentation on May 10th, that budget was $3,469,000. So what I want to do is I just want to take a minute here to explain why the budget back in February 16 versus March 10th decrease is significant. So I'm just going to read off a few items here. They're in descending order. But one of the largest items that we were able to decrease February to that first presentation in March was our special education BOCES costs. They decreased $1,431,000. The next item, contracted transportation. We were able to decrease that number $900,000. New York State employee health insurance for all active employees as well as retirees. We were able to reduce that number $686,000. Our technology department for data processing contracted services, we were able to reduce that $378,931. Legal fees, which make up several different categories, we were able to reduce legal fees by $354,000. The BOCES Summer Enrichment Program, just our cost, the money that we pay out to BOCES to run that program, it was estimated back in February to cost $300,000. See in the future slide that the district is not going to run that program. So that was a savings of $300,000. We do get revenue when we ran the program from participants, but for the most part, the district's cost was $300,000. Another BOCES category, which is computer assisted instruction, we were able to reduce that $284,550. Instructional services and contractual district-wide, $207,000. $1,000. And then there's another another special education contracted services. We were able to reduce that by $200,000. So I'm just giving an idea. I have several more categories here that were significantly reduced, but I just wanted to give an answer to where that money may have gone from February to March 10th. On the flip side, we were able to find revenues, okay, from the appropriated fund balance. That's one area. We were able to go into the fund balance for $2,237,000. The employee retirement system, one of the reserves that April was mentioning, we're going into that reserve for $1,772,000. So these are items that back in February we either didn't know or we weren't sure of how much we could actually take out of the reserves. And then we have the anticipated state aid, that 1% that I highlighted in blue there, $363,000. That was not known back in February, was known in early March. And then we were able to find additional monies from our tax cap formula. So I hope that provides some explanation, all the costs that I just identified, as well as the significant revenues that bridge that gap from February to March.
Thank you for providing those numbers. And I, of course, I added them all up. They do add up, as you were reading them out, to $9,113,481. Taking that away from the $16,791,156 still leaves $7,677,685. So I'm just looking at the numbers. So that is actually, we're still left with between the 16 million and the number that we got on March 10th. So $4,208,220. That can you account for that? With that,
Sure, and that's a good point. The budget and this copy, hopefully everyone is able to get a copy from back seat of the room. If you look, there's probably over 1,000 count codes that we have that make up the budget. So those numbers that I read to you were really only, say, the top 10 codes out of 1,000 codes. If we were to go individually through each of those expenditure codes, and I can generate a report, we would come to that difference.
So again, I'm absolutely categorically done with disingenuous news. October 28th, 2025, the auditor got up and spoke at the meeting saying things are going to be tight. We're in a rough spot. Again, things are thrown out like $900,000 in transportation. I consistently kept bringing up issues, about transportation. This isn't some magic number. This didn't come up in February. Every one of the administrators knew back in October the dire situation we were in. Constantly budget transfers without any explanation what they were for. Again, this was part of the reason I started voting no on every monetary issue. Now, we can go line by line by line. But again, I must reiterate, every one of these Board of Ed members up here have asked very specific questions, and we didn't get these answers. So then again, I must question, especially because a couple of the things that were brought up, it's not exactly accurate.
Sarah, if I could ask, when you mentioned budget transfers with no explanations, the only budget transfers I'm aware of, and the board approves them, have explanations. There's descriptions of them. So are you referring to other budget transfers that I may not be aware of?
There were, as far as I understand, there were 3 budget transfers that were brought to the board after the fact. And yes, since I can only speak to when I've been sitting on the board. Okay. There were 2 separate budget transfers where it was nothing. Nothing was written in, it was confidential. Okay. So that's why it didn't go out in the public.
And there was minimal only speaking about it, where questions were asked, not really. So we all just kind of rubber stamped it, and I was party to that too. So that's my answer to that.
I'm not aware of that, or if all budget transfers get approved by the board and they have a description. Okay, so the following slide here, we're going to speak about programs.
I'll take this
Sure.
and then I'm gonna have some of my colleagues in the cabinet speak to a couple of them. So over the weeks, we've discussed some of these programs. The alternative high school evening program is remaining. The alternative learning center with students on suspension, place credit recovery, students struggling to meet their graduation requirements. That's in place. The high school academy, the day program at the school, that will not continue. The staff is going to be reassigned to support those remaining students as well as students district-wide. And in a moment, Ms. O'Hara is going to explain both that transition and the benefit district-wide as we're able to reach and support even more students with that staff. In terms of the universal pre-K, one benefit of the state budget, once it does get finalized, that they're adjusting the UPK specific aid to allow schools to maximize the use of that aid. A lot of districts, like Connecticut in years past, have not been able to maximize all that specific aid because of the per student cap on it. But that's going to be raised once the budget gets finalized at the state level. And that will enable us to add some sections based on parental need. I know the lottery has already occurred. And we're looking forward to the state finalizing the budget and adding those couple of sections across the district. We've talked over the weeks about the OC Summer Enrichment Program and how we're no longer going to go with that program. There is a revenue to expenditure savings for the district, but the town of Islip is offering a nice summer playground program. And after we talk about the high school academy program with Ms. O'Hara, Ms. Poppy will speak to in detail about the town of Islip summer playground program.
The academy,
Okay, so at the end of this school year, there will be 16 students left in the academy for the 26-27 school year. And I've gotten together with the team at the academy and we've kind of reviewed what and how we can transition these students back to high school. So we're going to keep them on a truncated day. Right now they go to periods 2 through 8. We're going to keep their transportation and have their day truncated because part of the reason why they're there is they have difficulty coming to school. So the later start is helpful for them. So we're going to have to do that. We're going to also hand schedule all of their classes so that many of the students can be in 4 classes together. The reason why we want to do that is because we're going to assign the current staff that's in that program, the special education teacher and the school psychologist, to kind of monitor those kids and have a period throughout the day where they're able to meet with that teacher and psychologist, kind of debrief about anything that's going on, to help with any kind of skills that they may need to get through the days. And then the consultant teacher and psychologist will also be doing home visits to all of the students when and if they have difficulty coming to school. The benefit to the district or to district-wide is that we currently have about 3.5 special education students that are assigned to teach those classes at the academy. They will go back into the high school. It will give us some flexibility to create additional staff for our TEACH program. That's at our Bosby Elementary School. That mostly services our students with autism. We're seeing more of an influx of students coming into that program. So we would be able to support them with some additional classes in that program, as well as creating 811 programs, piloting it at 611 first to see how that goes. But these students that need some more support throughout the day, right now we run 15-1 self-contained program. So that smaller setting will really give those students the support that they need to be successful.
one quick question. And this is just a financial question. Where financially does it help us to make this transition?
It enables us to service more students across the district and ideally in-house as opposed to most of these are out-of-district placements.
And that will give us a financial savings as well?
All we're
So with the incoming students that we have in the teacher program, so we have, I want to say about 7 incoming teacher programs. So I would need to hire additional staff in order to service the students in-house or get an application place.
Thank you.
And the new Town of Islip summer playground program.
Thanks, Bob. So a bit of information regarding the town of Islip's summer playground program. The town approached the district late this fall with a request to use one of our elementary schools to host their summer playground program. This program is occurring annually at the Bohemia Rec Center, but the town is stating that there's always an overflow of interest in the program, and so they're not able to accommodate everybody who has an interest in enrolling. This is a recreation-based program. It's a camp experience that includes outdoor play, playground play, arts and crafts, games, and a few off-site trips. The camp would take place between July 6th and August 14th, between the hours of 9 and 2 p.m. The cost for a resident student is $245 per session. And they offer 3 2-week sessions within that time frame. And we are eyeing Duffield Elementary School as the location for this particular. That's just for some additional information regarding the town of Islip program.
We find out, me and this playground program are enemies right now. Do we find out if this is first come for our resident?
So I've asked the town to provide that consideration for Nequot residents. They did preliminarily tell me that town of Islip residents in general are preferred candidates, but I did make that request on behalf of the district that they consider Nequot students first.
And how many are allowed per 2-week program?
So the town has indicated against per 2-week session, which is a notable improvement over the amount of students that we've had enrolled in our BOCES program for the past number of summers per 2-week session.
And then my only other, I guess, question I see is that the arts and crafts, the game, all of this to be outside, I assume, but I'm just thinking of all the logistics. What if it's like 100 degrees outside one day, right? And like pouring rain, right? What happens? Is it like, sorry?
Every day during the summer is certainly not a sunny day, although we prefer the majority to be that way. But part of the camp's request is the use of a building, and in that building use is built in some classroom use for those inclement weather days, some spatial use for those inclement weather days, so that they can continue to facilitate their program despite the weather.
I think when I picture it, obviously I want something for not or something available, but when I think of like the use of people even spending $245 for 2 weeks, like I imagine the concept of can we not get arts and crafts and games and like hold something for hours that is not like preliminarily like I'm vice president for Nequot. You know what I mean? Like it's not, if we're gonna spend the money of people's taxes, we're gonna spend the money, anybody. Right, but there is a cost. No, was it?
The cost to the district would come in security and custodial coverage, but we laid that money out for the BOCES program as well, in addition to BOCES fees that were associated with that.
What I'm saying is that we talk a lot about in-house stuff, right? With doing stuff ourselves, like how many teachers would like something over the summer too? Not everybody likes, they need something over the summer that we could offer something that is our teachers for our students and I'm talking future, right? The future oriented, but it is a good alternative. I just don't love the fact that it's first come, first served to town of Islip residents, because that doesn't guarantee anything. I hate to see it like the UPK program where you see people very disappointed because they didn't necessarily get selected. 100 sounds like a lot, but if it's town of Islip, that's not a small area. That's 100 probably very quick.
And maintaining the sites. Well,
Correct. Yes, my understanding is that the program that is running at the Bohemia Rec Center will continue to utilize that space, or the extension of the program that's running there will continue to utilize that space.
Personal business, my two older kids both, they went to the summer camp with Town of Islip and they went to our Richmond program. The Town of Islip does you can stay inside, you can do the arts and crafts, play the games inside or go outside. It does go both ways. So I just wanted you to know that, that they don't just stop the program because it's bad weather or it's hot out. You get the same in Richmond no matter what.
I just think, it would be nice, just to let the community know, I know we talked about it once before, why most the summer enrichment program is not going on, but just to reiterate to the community why we are no longer doing that and we made the switch over to this.
So as Dr. Sanmore just said, in his previous small commentary 2 slides ago, there is an outlay, I'll say, for the BOCES program, right? So the district has to offer the monetary support in order for that program to run. We realize tuition the following school year once the books close for the program that occurred the summer prior, right? So that outlay from the district standpoint is what is challenging for us in this financial climate.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we conclude, I just want to make a couple of notes. Number one, at the bottom of this slide here, I know it may be difficult to see, but for those of you who have the handout, I put my contact information on there, my email, my phone number. So if anyone has questions or would like additional information, you can contact me through email, phone, or even if you come here, we'll to meet with anyone. The other thing is in the next week, we will be sending out a budget newsletter to over 14,000 residential homes throughout the community, providing a summary of the budget. And then in each of the school buildings, as well as the public library, we'll be placing a budget book there. I believe that will be on Monday with a lot of additional information. That newsletter, as well as the budget book, are also available online, as well as all of these presentations that we've done. So in addition to those mailings and the books being placed and the website, we also have to provide a lot of information up to the New York State Education Department, as well as the Comptroller's Office. So there'll be a lot more information coming up as well before the hearing.
You want to wait? Okay. So nobody has any questions for Mr. Hauser? Thank you, Mr. Hauser. I'm going to open the floor for public comment on the budget. There will be 2 other public comments later on in the meeting, but this one is for the budget questions. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. Does anybody have any questions on the budget before I read off them? You should have received the number card from security on your way in. If you have not, please see a security guard at the back of the room. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comment shall be kept as brief as possible and relating to school matters only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for 1 or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. Use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend this. Number 1. you.
Okay, a couple of different things. You guys are talking about getting rid of the math director position and putting that position with the ELA, no, not ELA, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that, with science. Those are two of the biggest portions of the education at the high school and the harder of them. We've had issues in this district for years, especially with math. The workload, especially at the elementary level across 7 buildings, is a job in itself. Connecticut has finally begun to make headway with the elementary program, the math program that we brought in, and now the work is being spread way too thin to do the work that needs to be done. The amount of observations that a director is going to have to do will keep anyone busy every day of the school year. The same thing goes for ELA, but because we've had the grades over the years we have had issues with, I'm totally shocked that you guys would want to take away, especially the math of all people, that position and put that with STEM, put that with science. Those are huge jobs. That being said, I also think that there's a problem with some of these programs that you guys are looking to get rid of. I understand cutting the budget. And to be perfectly honest, Sarah, I agree with you. April, I was on the board with you. You're not being disingenuous. You're straight up inaccurate. It's unbelievable what's being said. The boards before you did not have these issues. The boards before you had issues and handled them. We had to make tough decisions, but let's be clear. There was 17 million in reserves in 2022-23. There was an overture. If you did your homework, if you guys did your research, you'd understand that the state, flagged Connecticut with 12 Long Island schools and stated that we had to spend down that money. That wasn't the Board of Education's decision. That wasn't the 5 board members that I sat with. That was the state, just like the unfunded state mandates over the years. It is kicking the can down the road, but this board is the one that has this issue now. And you have to face it that other boards over the years asked for things. I know myself brought up a forensic audit, which thank you, Marisol, I brought it up February 18th in an email. In an email, I requested it be put on for added to board discussions. And we then spoke about it at February 26th, 2024. I just want to ask.
You can turn the mic on and just wrap up the comments. Yeah.
I just want to say, I requested that. And I was told that anyone can watch it in public at the 144 mark, that it was going to be done internally. At the time, it was going to be done internally. Dr. Centimore said, we're going to take a bite out of this. Those were the words. I just watched it the other day to make sure. Well, it is now 2 years later. Where's the forensic audit that was supposed to be done in 2024 when I voted no to that budget? That budget was a problem. Last year's budget was very good.
Thank you. There are a lot of tough decisions that we as a board and the cabinet had to make for this budget. And none of them were taken lightly, and all of them were taken into consideration as far as the students and staff and everybody affected. And they were tough decisions to make for all of us up here. And I will speak for all of us, because I know that all of us had a tough time making these decisions. But we had to think of sustainable decision for the district and what we could do to help progress and see into the future. We couldn't sustain ourselves the way we were going. We just couldn't. So all these tough decisions were made. I know a lot of people are very upset. But tough decisions have to be made. I know that we are told all the time we make tough decisions, and when we make them, we're like, oh, not that tough decision, we meant the other tough decision. But we have to make tough decisions, and then we have to stick to those decisions sometimes, and they're hard.
I just like to clarify something. It's not just this Board of Education. For someone to ask for a forensic audit, clearly something's amiss. Okay, so this has got to have been going on for a long time. And I also want to clarify something else. This district has always notoriously been slush fund rich. Okay, fund balance all of the money into the, it's just a kind of a term, but we've always been notoriously slush fund rich. Having said that, this isn't the first time in the history of Connecticut that we were flagged on having too much money. The point being, there was money in it, okay? And it's systematically been eaten down. And again, I have to harken back to budget transfers and things of that nature without really explaining back in October, not February, that these numbers were present and we were not apprised of it. Period, end of sentence.
Number 3. You just have to hit the, yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go. I just have a quick question about when we're looking at proposed revenues. And Bob, I just need a quick synopsis of what this means. So we go to Employee Retirement Systems Reserve, and we're taking down $1 million. Does that mean we're not putting $1 million into the retirement fund, or we're putting $1 million less?
Okay, so to clarify that line, which is this page I think you're referring to with the summary of the budget.
Yes.
So that Employee Retirement System Reserve, also known as the ERS, which as of June 30th had a balance of $4,098,707. For this proposed budget, we are proposing to take $2,435,839 out of that reserve, which is $1 million less than we took out current. Does that clarify it?
Okay, then explain to me the line directly under it where, so then the teacher's retirement system, there is an overage, would it be considered an overage of $1.7 million?
So, no, good point that you're bringing up. So if you look at that line, all the way to the left where it spells out Teachers Retirement System Reserve, TRS.
Right.
As of June 30th, this past June 30th, it had a balance of $1,701,263. And for the current school year that we're operating in right now, we proposed, and that budget was approved a year ago, we proposed to take the full amount of $1,701,263 out of that reserve. So now that reserve at the end of this year will have a zero balance.
So are we then loading money back in, because aren't some of these people going to be retiring and drawing down money?
Okay, another good point. So that reserve, and I'll say that's an optional reserve for the district. That does not cover a teacher who retires, their retirement expense for the district. That comes out of the general fund budget that we pay for that. If the teacher retires, their sick time that they get paid out for, that's a separate reserve, 2 lines up the employee benefit accrual liability.
Yes. Okay. because it looked like these two numbers alone are $2.7 million. So if we were in the whole $3 million even, we're almost done just by making these adjustments, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we're just proposing to take less money out of those reserves. One in particular, the TRS doesn't have.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the one that goes completely to zero. I'm just trying to figure out if we were not going to put money into that reserve at all for the year and just wing it and hope for the best.
Well, for the most part, as these reserves come down, okay, that one in particular, if the district doesn't generate a surplus, a significant surplus to replenish those funds, then they remain at zero.
That will be zero. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Number 4. 5. There's 8 cards out. 6. Yep. Okay, we're not gonna have a back and forth. You can just hit the button on the mic. Yes. There you
Okay,
go.
now you can hear me.
I can.
April, I'm repeating some of the things that you mentioned earlier. I haven't spoken to you. I haven't spoken to anybody, actually. So you said, hey, good evening, members of the Board of Ed. I'm here tonight to speak about the upcoming school budget. But I'd like to begin with a bit of history because it matters as you make decisions today. About 10 years ago, when I had the privilege of serving on this board, the superintendent at the time, Dr. Linda Adams, brought forward a difficult proposal to cut roughly 30 teaching positions. The board majority at that time, including Lynn and Jax, chose a different path and instead reduced administrative positions. That decision avoided reductions in the short term, but also set up a chain of events that the district had to work through over time. Many of those administrative cuts were later reversed and staff was reassigned. No teaching positions were ultimately lost, but the financial and structural impact of those decisions carried forward. I raise this because these same individuals have been critical of the board's current use of reserves to manage the budget. It's easy to criticize the use of reserves today, but we should be honest about the fact that similar choices were made in the past to avoid immediate cuts, and at times to keep budgets below the recommended 2%. These were pay-me-now, pay-me-later decisions, and in many cases, the costs were simply heard. This is not about revisiting old disagreements, it's about understanding that board majorities have real influence, and their decisions shape the district for years to come. Despite those challenges, Dr. Adams and her team delivered strong results. They stayed focused on students, and it showed student performance remained strong and academic achievement, particularly on exams like SAT and ACT, became a point of pride in this community. This didn't happen by chance. It came from a clear and consistent focus on educational excellence and continues today based on what I'm seeing in Newsday. As you consider the budget point now, I recognize that difficult decisions may be necessary. These may include reductions in staff, programs, or activities. But those decisions should be guided by a steady focus on what is best for students and the long-term health.
No, you can just press the button. Thank you.
Cut what is essential, but protect what truly matters. A strong board creates an environment where its administration can be honest, thorough, and forward-thinking, even when the recommendations are difficult. Trust the team you've hired and give them the space to do their work without fear of repercussions. I no longer sit in the seat, but I don't have to make the choices that move this district forward. And P.S. I helped start that BOCES program. It was a pet project for me. I'm disappointed, but once again, you have to make the right choices for the community as a whole and for the students as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7.
Okay, attrition of current and pending open positions, including retirements in areas such as administration, teaching, custodial, maintenance, grounds, and clerical. How many?
So we have at least one administrative retirement. Have 8 so far teaching retirements and 5 pending retirements. So of that attrition, we're probably looking at about 10, roughly, give or take, in terms of actual attrition. And then we have several clerical retirements, and then we have either retirements of people within the facilities ranks that are either retiring or assuming a different position, leaving a backfill position that won't be backfilled. Around 2 custodial, a maintenance.
Do you have a number in mind? What if you don't hit that number? Or is that like a
They
firm
have
number?
already,
Okay.
retired.
Okay. Accessing of 2 administrators along with the elimination of several department positions to create consolidated director positions. How many is that?
So we're looking at a director of humanities. So that would take essentially the English Social Studies departments and combine essentially director of special ed, director of student services. Basically combine those areas, and there could be some other areas as well. You know, departmental responsibilities. Director of math, director of science technology. So we're looking at 3 that we previously mentioned this evening. 3 significant departmental consolidations.
Meaning 3 eliminations or are there additional?
Well, we had a retirement amendments.
Okay. All those numbers that Mr. Hauser mentioned earlier about like where the $16 million went to, which also like I'm adding up on page 13 and 14 and I'm not getting to 16 million either. So that's cute. That's a curiosity, but like one of them is contract transport and that line alone is 35%, $1.74 million, and the 2024-25 budget was for 4.585 million. The final expense is 3.641. I think it was Eileen when she was on the board. Like, why are the budget numbers so much higher than the actual final numbers when we're consistently coming in under the final numbers? Like, why are we over budgeting? And or like, where does 1.784 million just go?
So, great question. If we just focus on the latter part of your statement, back, so the 1.74, the district has made a commitment, very serious commitment, to bring back as many bus routes as we possibly can, so that our own bus drivers and our own bus fleet are used to the maximum capacity, instead of, I'll say, being too quick to outsource those routes to our contracted vendor. So we are hoping and we're optimistic that we can realize, I'll say, budgeted savings of that $1.7 million by bringing many of those routes back in-house.
I have other questions that you're going to get to, but let me just interrupt with 1 second for that. District transportation is also down $473,000. So how do we get contract transportation and district transportation down if you're trying to get more transportation routes back in service?
So is it possible when you say that $400,000 number that you're referring to the total of the transportation?
Total dollar change.
Yeah, so, you know, we've gone through each of these codes, and we've looked at our actual utilization, and we've adjusted accordingly. You know, I'll look at the very last item, which is on page 36, which happens to be bus parts. You know, in dealing with our head mechanic and our vendors that we use, we expect to realize savings of $170,000, budgeted savings of $170,000. So I'll say a few things here. There are other sets of eyes looking at these numbers, more so than, let's say, in the past, in trying to realize significant savings and operate more efficiently and closer in line with the actual budget.
Okay. sorry, did you get to the, like, why is it like a much higher number in the proposed budget versus the final expense?
So another great question. So I'm going to go back to what you had highlighted, which is on page 37, maybe about a quarter of the way down, where you highlighted that $1.7 million number, the difference in contracted transportation. In my opinion, that's a good example that you highlighted where the budgets are significantly higher than the actual expenditures that come in. Even if you look at the far left column, the budget that was adopted in 24-25 at 4.5 million versus the actual expenditures that came in at 3.6 million. So I want to say, based on my experience with these numbers, the budgets have a lot to do with either special education costs in terms of transporting students, whether that can be done in-house or whether it has to be contracted out. So in many cases, we might be budgeting to transport a particular student or students by contracting them, whereas in the end, we were able to use our own fleet. So if we use our own fleet, we use our own bus drivers, you're not going to see the expenditure come through there. But in many cases, it's just, anticipating what the costs might be if there's an influx of students with needs, and that may not materialize.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 8.
Can I address something having to do with transportation, or should I wait?
Thank you. I just need you to press the button on the mic, please. Thank you.
I want to talk about the process involved in launching over the past several weeks, because that matters just as much as the numbers themselves. We're talking about a $230 million budget, and yet key pieces of information have come in late, changed along the way, or just haven't been. Things like state aid, the use of reserves, certain spending increases were still moving targets, even as the board was being estimated. One example that really stands out is the current year's forecast. That's supposed to be the foundation for everything. It tells you where you are before you build next year's plan. But it came in late and it didn't feel careful or complete. That's a problem because everything else depends on it. Everything else cascades after you determine what this year's budget is with a reliable forecast. There have also been multiple meetings where questions were asked, but the answers were partial, delayed, or never fully clear. From the outside, it's been hard to follow a straight line through this budget, to understand how the numbers connect and how decisions are being made. And when major items can suddenly be found inside budget lines late in the process, that raises real concerns. It makes it seem like things weren't clearly laid out from the start, or were buried in a way that made it hard to see the full picture. Either way, that points to problems in how the budget was built. That's not how this should work. Good budget process builds understanding over time. Information comes early, it's clearly explained, and it stays consistent so people can follow it. That has not been the case here. Instead, this has felt rushed, uneven, and unclear right up to the point where a vote is expected. But for something this big, that's not acceptable. At a certain point, when things don't add up or aren't clearly explained, you don't just push forward, take a step back and have someone independent take a look. So I think the right next step here is simple. Bring in an independent outsider to go through the numbers and make sure everything is clear, accurate, and above board. And if that doesn't happen, then I think it's reasonable that this gets looked at by the state control's office, so the public can have confidence that everything's been done properly. And I think if the board thinks, but I've sat here and watched this for several weeks, the board thinks they have enough information to vote on this budget, I think that's a great mistake. There's nothing that's been done in a comprehensive or thoughtful manner in this budget. Big hodgepodge at best. And you all don't have the answers you need yet, because I've been sitting here listening, waiting for the answers, and I haven't heard. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments on the budget? Ms. Frieden, did you want to say something about?
I'm gonna start this with, everyone, I'm gonna start this with, last night as an absolute last resort, I laid down very specific questions. And that, quite frankly, the lack of reconciliation of core figures is distressing to me, and I don't say that lightly as well. Anybody who wants this, I'll make a copy of it and I'll give it to you, because you'll see how, I mean, I want to say an eighth of the questions that I asked, which should be at their fingertips, were not answered. And I just asked for the bare bones basic. So anyone who wants a copy of this, I will give it to you. It'll help you understand what we're not getting. I just have, very quickly, I want to say a couple of things. We are being asked to approve a budget of approximately $229 million. It's $250 million, more than $250 million. That is an enormous amount of taxpayer money. And with that comes a very simple responsibility. We should fully understand it before we vote on it. Right now, I do not believe we do. This isn't complicated. If any of us were asked to sign off on something this large in our own lives, we would expect clear numbers, clear explanations, and direct answers. That same standard should apply here. But that has not been the process. We have been asked to accept major budget decisions. Key pieces of information remain uncertain. Things like revenue assumptions, the impact of state aid, and how prior year adjustments and reserves are being used. These are not minor details. These are core to whether this budget is accurate and sustainable. We have also not been given clear, consistent explanations around reserve funds and financial planning. That is especially concerning given the reserve management and transparency have been flagged in prior oversight reviews. The public deserves a clear understanding of how those funds are being used. Again, I referenced the audit of the October 28th, 2025. And despite these gaps, we appear ready to move forward anyway. Some members of this board are preparing to approve this budget without having all of the necessary information in front of them. That is not oversight. That is not due diligence. That is not what the public expects from us. Our role is not to rubber stamp a $250 million plan. Our role is to understand it, question it, and be able to stand behind it with confidence. Right now, I cannot do that. And when there are gaps, as well as no answers, like this, when the information is incomplete or unclear, the responsible action is not to move forward and hope for the best. The responsible action is to stop, verify, ensure that what we are approving is sound, most assuredly when we're affecting other people's livelihoods. This is why I believe an in-depth forensic audit, independent audit, is necessary before this budget is adopted. Not optional, necessary. We need an outside objective review to confirm that the numbers are accurate, the assumptions are sound, and that this board has been given a complete and transparent picture. And I want to be equally clear about this. If we proceed with approving this budget without the level of clarity and verification, I believe it would be appropriate to formally refer these concerns to the New York State Office of the State Comptroller for review. That is not a step I take lightly, but when there is a serious question about financial transparency, process, and oversight, there is an obligation to ensure they are independently examined. This is not about personalities. It is not about politics. It is about doing the job the right way. We are accountable for every dollar in this budget, and the people watching this, here tonight and at home, deserve to know that we did not just approve it because it was put in front of us and we were backed into a corner. They deserve to know we got it right. Until I have that level of clarity and confidence, I cannot support this budget. I will not support this budget. And just to clarify about certain transportation issues, we had 3 years running where it was a little over 3 million that was shipped out to Suffolk Transport. The subsequent year, following year, was over 4 million. This past year, it was over $5 million. Think something's wrong with that? We had people that were waiting for their runs and did not get them. They were deliberately turned away. There's something amiss in that department. There is something really amiss with not being able to get our questions answered. Again, you could not put it more simply than what I did last night. I was willing to step back and say, please give me these answers. If I get them, I will then move forward with this budget. You'll see how many answers I got.
Maxwell, did I speak?
Absolutely, Mr. Hudson.
So I would like an opportunity, I'll say, to defend myself, Sarah. Sarah, can I speak, please? Last night, there was a scheduled meeting. The time and the date of that meeting was known well in advance, within 24 hours in advance. I wasn't given any notice, not even 24 hours notice of that 4-page document that you brought into that meeting and asked me to complete in less than 60 minutes. And you asked me to sign it and certify it. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's professional. And certainly, you could have given me that document 24 hours in advance with an expectation that it be completed in time for the meeting so that the meeting could have been productive. And that didn't happen.
Now I'm offering up the email that I sent him last week, asking every one of these questions last week. You had more than a week to get them together. Consistently with everything you've said to me on every question I've asked, I'll have to get back to you. And I didn't understand what you were asking for. It was exactly the same thing, but in a kind of longer form email. So what you're saying is categorically untrue.
I disagree.
Of course you do.
You emailed me last Wednesday evening. In 24 hours out of your 6 questions, I provided answers to 4 of them with supporting documentation. The 5th item required the assistant superintendent for personnel. And the 5th item, I told you I would get you the next day. And I did that.
No, you didn't.
I got you that Friday. That's 48 hours after you emailed me. I didn't hear a word Friday evening. I didn't hear a word Saturday. I didn't hear a word Sunday. And I didn't hear a word Monday that I didn't answer any of your questions, that I didn't provide the proper documentation, or a request for clarification. Nothing. So I think your comment and your statement to me is unfair and unjustified.
Okay, let the public determine. I'm going to give them your answers as well, which I had planned to do when I said I was offering it up. Let's see if they think you answered my questions. And quite frankly, Bob, you get to a certain point when this district, the Board of Education, is given on March 10th, we got 3.5 million in the hole, when in fact, it was a whole lot more than that, okay? That's kind of lying by omission. We're gonna go past that one. I've asked subsequent questions over and over and over again. And again, I'm gonna refer to last week. You could not be more clear than what I wrote in an email. What you gave me back was ridiculous. But again, let the public determine.
Sarah, I appreciate your opinion. However, I just said, you had plenty of time, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday,
I'm not done.
to contact me. You could have asked me for additional information. You could have had a conversation, a professional conversation. Instead, you waited till Monday evening and you brought a hard copy of a document with an expectation that the document, without having been reviewed by anybody in the room that I know of, gets completed in less than 60 minutes. That's not
You
reasonable.
mean numbers that should be at your fingertip? But hey, again, I'm gonna let the public determine this. And having said that, getting back to you, what do you think I'm gonna look at it and go, oh, okay, here we go. This is, no.
I just need
I
the
need to
conversation to
address
say, I
this.
just need the conversation to please stay professional and not attack each other. And
It is
by each other, I
professional.
mean,
He's not answering.
I,
He's trying to hold me to
But this-
task. He gave me a gazillion numbers
no, I
that
understand.
clearly had to be worked
I'm
on.
just asking that we maintain a professional, calm.
I think I am. I'm addressing I'm addressing the statements.
Without attacking anyone.
I'm not attacking.
Please.
I'm addressing the statements. Having said that, you gave me that information. The minute I got it, I diligently started working on it. Did you expect me, Bob, to just say, oh, okay, here are the numbers, and just accept them, or actually go over them and do my due diligence and jump? Because that's why when I was done on Sunday evening, Bob, I had to figure out, because it didn't make sense yet again, I had to figure out, how do I do this to put it in the simplest form to get the most basic answers? So when you question why I didn't contact you immediately, it was because I was going over the absolutely ridiculous information. By the way, also inaccurate information.
I appreciate your opinion, and we can agree to disagree.
Just to clarify, I'm not agreeing to disagree. I want the comptroller.
You know, this question of integrity is concerning, whether it's Mr. Hauser, anybody on the cabinet, certainly myself. You know, this cabinet, under my leadership and their own individual leadership within their departments, will been upstanding. You know, the budget development process is never an easy process from one year to the next. We see it throughout the state. We see the issues with revenue coming out of the state to support school district budgets. And, you know, in terms of a delay of information, you know, as we're collecting budget data and we're doing our own reconciliation, you know, there's no delay of providing information to the board. And as budgetary questions are coming in, Mr. Hauser is the first to do his due diligence, to get that information. Oftentimes it does require collaboration from other departments as well. And sometimes some questions there's a complication and there's a way that somebody wants to receive that information so they can understand it. And that it requires a dialogue, conversation of, thank you for answering that question, but I still require further clarity. You know, so we can have access to information, but if it wants to be presented in a certain way, that may not be something that can be done in 30 to 60 minutes. I think that's the point of the house. Right.
The point I'm trying to make is you don't bring a budget to a Board of Education with that big a deficit, not tell them exactly what the deficit was. Okay, and then when every single board member asks questions, obfuscate. And that's exactly what went on. You know what? Let's put it again. Let's get an outside audit. Let's get the comptroller in. Prove me wrong. God help me, I want to be wrong.
Not addressing most of it. The only thing I want to say is I don't know how anyone's going to vote on anything, but I don't like the idea of saying that if anybody votes yes, it's going to be a rubber stamp, because I know that we have met for 5 hours at a clip ad nauseum how many times to try, like doing things that realistically I don't necessarily think the board typically does, right? Like the way that we were doing it, like 5-6 hour meetings 5-6 times leading up to this since we found out in March. So like I wouldn't call what anybody does a rubber stamp because I don't know about anybody else. There was night guys up until 2 o'clock in the morning with paper that could wallpaper my entire house trying to find $15 where it could be found. So I just, to say that anybody, any one of us would rubber stamp anything when it comes to this point, I would say the amount of effort we've all been putting in has been exhausting, right? Like, I do it like emotionally and like physically exhausting. So I just don't like that idea because I do agree something externally is coming, but it's not going to be done even if we do it in a couple weeks. So now what? Do we go to contingency now? How many people? Now what? Yeah, like no, I'm saying if the budget fails, like I'm saying if we go all this route, right? Like we get all the way there, this budget fails, like we're still in a horrific position, right? We are darned if we do, and if we don't right now, which I am also not happy about. We've all expressed being really, really, really unhappy with where we're at. But like to say anything about rubber stamping when I know we have all almost lost our minds over this at this point is a little upsetting because I know you were there with all of us. And I think every single one of us contributed to those very long late night meetings.
Everything you're saying is completely accurate. Having said that, every single board member here has stated innumerable times, where are the answers? We have not received the answers. Every single board member. So knowing that, okay, clearly you have to vote your conscience. But the simple fact is, when we have consistently said that up to last night, okay, to do this and to pass a budget where the numbers are 2 and 2 don't make 4, period, end of sentence. We have no idea where where a $16.7 million deficit is. None. We have no idea. And we've asked innumerable times. So essentially, if we pass that, that is rubber stamp. And maybe, just maybe, and I've stated this and I've asked about it, let's try and contact the state. No one wants to do that because it could potentially get ugly. The simple fact is, that's what should have been done. I asked our attorney, okay, and I got a generic Googleable answer. Having said that, again, you must vote your conscience. But we've all acknowledged, we've all admitted here to the public, because it's our job, that we have not received the answers. Not even once.
Does anybody else have a comment on the budget? Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the 2026-2027 budget in the amount of $230,328,468 and place it on the ballot for voter approval at the annual meeting on May 19th, 2026. I will do a roll call vote. Ms. Parisi?
No.
Ms. DiLorenzo?
Say something, sorry.
No, that's fine.
So it's just something I didn't know that we were gonna go right.
That's okay.
I appreciate the work that went into getting this budget within the tax cap, but I can't support the way that we got here. The board didn't have enough time to fully review, ask questions, and really understand some of the decisions being made. And that's not the level of transparency or process our community expects. I also want to be clear. I support having a budget adopted. That is our responsibility. But I struggle with how any of us can vote yes when there isn't full transparency or clear answers to important questions. Speaking for myself, I still have questions that have not been answered, and I don't believe that reflects the level of due diligence we owe this community. Staying within the tax cap matters, but so does how we get there. In my opinion, some of the choices we made are short-term fixes. They don't solve the bigger issues, and in some cases, they place a heavier burden on certain groups. That's not a sustainable path forward. Our job isn't just to get through this year, it's to plan responsibly for the years ahead. And that means taking the time to do this right, being transparent, and truly listening to the community before making decisions that impact them. I don't want us to be in the same position next year, having the same conversation, I believe we can and should do better, and I remain committed to being part of a more thoughtful, accountable approach moving forward. That being said, sorry, I am a no.
Mr. Russo. Yes. Ms. Iannatelli.
Yes.
I am also going to be a yes. I do echo some of the sentiments that were said up here tonight as far as this was a very difficult budget. We had to work under a lot of different constraints. But I feel confident in the budget that I am presenting to the community. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the 2026-2027 property tax report card?
Motion.
Second. Does anybody have any questions on that? Ms. Parisi? We're voting on the property tax report card. I'm abstaining. Okay. Ms. Di Lorenzo?
I'm gonna abstain as well.
Okay. Ms. Terragrossa? And Ms. Iannatelli?
Yeah.
And I will be a yes. Okay. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the 2026-27 BOCES administrative budget in the amount of $57,638. Nope. $57,638,704. I moved the comment there. Does anybody have any questions on the BOCES budget? Ms. Parisi, how do you vote? Ms. Di Lorenzo? $57,638,704.
Oh, I'm looking on here.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at that one. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Terragrossa? Ms. Iannatelli?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Can I have a motion and a second to vote by resolution for up to 5 candidates for the 2026-27 Eastern Suffolk BOCES Board?
Motion.
I will do the candidates one by one. Susan Lipman, Ms. Parisi?
Yes.
Ms. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Ms. Terragrossa?
Yes.
Ms. Iannatelli? And I'm a yes. Joseph Loschiavo? Ms. Parisi?
Honestly, I don't have enough information. I understand that we've gotten certain things, so I have to see.
Okay, that's fine. Ms. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Ms. Terragrossa? And Iannatelli?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm a yes also. Ann McAsee, Ms. Parisi?
Again, I want a little bit more, and I don't know these people, so we'll need a little bit more to make an accurate.
No, that's fine. Usually the BOCES board gives us the.
Right,
that they,
I know,
Yeah,
I just, it wasn't a lot,
that's fine.
and I don't want to affect
You want
anyone
to
personally.
abstain?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Ms. Terragrossa? Ms. Iannatelli?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Victoria Malloy? Ms. Parisi?
Again,
Yes. Abstention. I have to say it. Ms. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Ms. Terragrossa?
Yes.
Ms. Iannatelli? And I'm a yes. And Ms. Catherine Romano? Ms.
again, abstention.
Ms. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Ms. Terragrossa?
Yes.
Ms. Iannatelli?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay. I'm gonna skip you. All right, so now I will open the floor for the second open public comment portion of the agenda. Is there anybody speaking at this portion? Okay, you know the rules? Number 1. Oh, sorry. Just hit the button. Perfect, thank you.
Can I ask, do you have in your mind a place that you think this money went? Like, is there something you're?
So I just need you to address me.
Oh, sorry.
And that's okay. And just ask your questions, and then when you're done, we'll circle back to them.
Is there something that we're, mind is going to about where this money might have gone. It seems that everybody feels that it wasn't explained properly or add up. There's something we're thinking is going wrong,
Sure.
illegally wrong.
I think that that's the purpose of wanting to bring in the comptrollers to figure out where it's gone, right? So we don't know.
Well,
Or some of us don't know, right? Some of us don't know. I think she was addressing Ms. Parisi, and I think that's the reason why.
I think she's addressing all of us because we've stated 16 times that 16.7 is unaccounted for.
Do you have any other?
So we're suggesting that foul play.
No, no one's suggesting that.
No, where to go? That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. I'm not suggesting.
No, we're not having, no, okay, so there's no back and forth, I'm sorry. Is that all?
I do want to comment though, because I want to.
That's okay, you can comment after, yeah. Thank you.
I do not believe it was foul play, and I would like that on the record, that I do not think foul play. That's the impression everybody's getting. 100%, that is not what I.
Number two.
No, wait.
Okay.
No, I want to make a comment as well. I am not saying it's foul play. I'm not saying it is. How would I know? I have no answers. You understand? I can't. So I'm not going to sit here and definitively say when there's no answer for missing money. No account of, give me an account of where it went. Okay, so, but I can't state one way or another. So bring in the people. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's important as we speak with the public about this sense of missing money. We're talking about budget development process, and we're talking about looking at revenues and offsetting them with expenditures. So in terms of missing money, it's not missing money. This was a budget development process, and those two categories, which is how you get to a balanced budget, is what you look at. And so looking at it from February to March to today's adoption, and Mr. Hauser tried to explain that in terms of where those codes and where those revenues went from the February development to now. It's not about missing. I think it's very important for the public to hear that emphatically. It's not about any missing money.
Until we find out where that money was spent, it's the simplest of simple things. When I'm shown it went to this, and this, okay? And until that occurs, there's no accounting for where that money is. So clearly, I don't know if there's something amiss. I don't know if it's a mistake. I don't know because I've been given no answers. And it's not a snapshot in time I'm looking for. I'm looking for where that money was spent.
So I just would like to comment that I agree with Sarah on certain things, but I view it differently. If we had $16 million and then one day they said, oh, we only have 3, that's missing money. If we have a deficit that we thought, we put a budget together and said, oh, we don't have enough money to pay our bills and we need 60 million, but then a week later it's 3.6. Well, we had some problems with our numbers. We needed to tweak them, and now we saw that we made some. I don't want to call them errors, but whatever development process. So I do look at it differently. Do I think that our internal auditor, our external auditors, I feel that there should be some accountability in the fact that where were they? Why weren't we given more information? I read that through the report. There's one thing to say, hey, watch the reserve. Then, hey, you've just been supporting your budget on taking from the reserve, for these years. So I just want everybody, the public, to understand that we might all feel a certain collective way, but we got there different. So I do not believe money is missing. I believe, in my way, and that everybody has their own way, and it doesn't make it right, wrong, it's indifferent. We just all have our own way. So it's not making any big difference. It's not there.
Genuinely, with due respect, April, I hear what you're saying, but This isn't apples and oranges. This is, we've asked every single one of us innumerable times. And to come to me and say, we discovered this in February. Again, not true. This was known about by the end of October. Okay. We were notified March 10th. And by the way, we were not told about 16.7. Jackie discovered it. And then it was acknowledged last week. So there's definitely disingenuous answers going. I understand. I'm not saying again, one way or another, but it's not us all getting to hear from it. We asked, we haven't received. All I want to know is where that money was spent. It's a very simple question. And let's get the timeframes correct, please.
Mr. Hauser provided that information, show the budget development from February till now. Mr. Hauser provided that. And again, budget develops. And he explained it earlier tonight in prior sessions.
That's just not true. Because Jackie last week was the one that said 16.9. When I said more than 5.6 million, you consistently said to me, I don't know where she's getting that number from. Where are you getting that number from? Over and over, you also said that to people when I wasn't around. The simple fact was the records showed. And then when I confronted you on it, you said, well, how do you think we got to the 3.4 million? So again, we don't want to do this because I remember everything and I can back everything up with receipts.
Number 3.
Oh, 2.
2. Whatever, kidding. You're up.
I just want you guys to know that it took me a lot. When I was up there, I didn't see how I was acting to the public until I was back in the public. And you guys may not realize it, but you should take a breath and just relax because you all have to work together. I'm telling you this because when you're sitting we're all sitting out here and we have a lot of questions also, but it doesn't help to go at one another. You're not going to get anywhere. The budget at this point, I worked with Bob and I trust him explicitly. That being said, I don't ask for a forensic audit 2 years ago because I was concerned with if money, what you guys are kind of the perception that's going out. I was more concerned with I'm not a financial person and I own this. Okay? There are people on the board. April, I was with you. People think that they're financial people. You are not. You do not have an accountant degree. You are not an accountant. That's why you hire people like Mr. Hauser who have that degree. That being said, you have to trust him. But at the same time, when all these issues were happening in 2024, nobody jumped up and said, let's do a forensic audit then. Now you're saying it, and you're saying that it's prior board's faults. But it wasn't prior board's faults because we were able to ask the tough questions in October. We weren't emotional thinkers because you got to calm down and you got to make decisions that are not emotional. You have to take the emotion out of it. There's a lot of things I didn't like when I was on the school board, but I took the emotion out of it when I could, and we all make mistakes. I did when I could, but the reality is, I'm telling you, maybe you all one meeting each need to sit in the audience and see or watch the meeting at home, because I'm telling you, Marisol used to make fun of me, that I used to go home and the next day watch the board meeting and critique myself, because there's nothing wrong with self-reflection, okay? That being said, I just want to correct a couple of different things. The previous boards, this is the problem. Previous boards had to take money from reserves because the then business official, who was somebody who was not experienced like Bob, somebody who was here. I was on the board with 3 different business officials. So I know the difference, just so you all understand. The business official at the time overtaxed the community, and Eileen and Mylene quit. They caught the mistake, and that's when we had to, we didn't take the reserves to balance the budget. like they were trying to do. So what they had to do is we had to spend down the reserves. This budget needs to go in the future, my opinion, tighter to a true budget, tighter to the numbers, to the exact. Do more of an exact budget. Really, we got to start to learn to stay within our means, because we do that at home. And I think that the problem is, as a board, you all need to work together and try to stay, because you are going to have tough decisions next year.
Thank you. Did you want to speak? Oh, there was only 2 cards, that's why I didn't realize somebody else grabbed a card.
Take part again. Pay the money.
I appreciate that.
Don't find another part, all right? Okay, so first I want to say is congratulations. You've done what you're supposed to do, which is put a budget in front of the people. Now it's the people's job to decide whether or not what they're going to look at is going to be enough for them to vote for the budget or against the budget. If you put up no budget, that would mean that you are literally taking the vote away from the people, which is what our job is. So you've done your job now. I've done a lot of budgets. I did 37 years in banking, and I've done budgets up and down, 0 up, 100% down, every way you slice it. This budget is like you have the Continental Railroad going east, you've got the Pony Express going north, you've got the Stagecoach going south, and you've got the cavalry going west, and you're all trying to be at one spot at the same time. The numbers move. The numbers have always moved. This budget has always been that way. From this point forward, what's going to happen is whoever is on the board for this summer on, you're going to have to go look back at the budget and have to make adjustments, which is what happens every single year, which is what you do. Spending in one category is up, spending in one category is down. You've got to transfer money back and forth. I don't think there's any loss of money, because we're not dealing in cash. Every dollar that's being spent and can be paper trail. So now the rough part comes, which is if the budget gets approved, you've got to go back in and say, where this summer do we need to really look at this and say, where are the numbers that might not make sense? And the other part is that if the budget gets voted down, you're going to have to figure out how we're going to do a contingency budget. So your job is not done, but at this point, up to right now, you've done your job. Congratulations. Thank you, Paul.
I'm still traumatized from the last year on the board. That's why I get nervous. Anyway, I feel as though there's a lot of grandstanding. Personally, what happens is I see written statements of why you're not voting on this budget. You're not voting on school budget to hurt children. And it's still hurting children. Okay? You took time to write why you're not doing it, rather than sitting in his office demanding answers. Or the last week, you should have been in his office. He would have answered your questions. I find it embarrassing. I thought this district was going forward, but it isn't. It's the same old stuff, and I'm not here to debate you. I'm making a statement. I was embarrassed by what you guys were saying. You should have been in his office over and over and over again.
We're gonna let the community member finish. We're not going to interrupt.
Everything is just, it's not edge battle, it's nonsense coming out of the side of the room. And it really disheartening, really was disheartening by it. And by the way, seeing you guys in the paper, having the kids being acknowledged, having our scores being graduation rate, and everything in the paper, we're way up there. That should be acknowledged. That should be discussed. That's pretty good. Better than the nonsense we've been hearing about Connecticut I get phone calls every time we're in the paper, because it's always bad. This year, it was good. I was so proud, even not being on the board. I felt all the years of work are coming to fruition. Don't just do it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I call for a motion and a second to approve item number 2 on the consent agenda. Motion. Second. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, can we read it out? So that the public knows. Can we read it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item number 2, CTA memorandum of agreement. Motion. Second. Anybody have any questions on it? All in favor? Aye.
I'm not really, I think we need more. I'm not really for this. I said last night that I don't think that this is something that we should really be going for, so I am. Yes. But I just think we need more. I'm gonna abstain from this at this point, because just not enough.
Ms. Creighton?
Abstaining.
Okay. So 3 yeses and 2 abstentions. Dr. Senward, do you have an update?
Thank you, Ms. Mel. So last week, our high school assistant principal, Joe Modica, through the Drug and Alcohol Awareness Task Force, provided a distracted under the influence driving simulator called Arrive Alive for 11th grade students. By the way, he won this through a raffle, so free to the district. The Drug and Alcohol Committee does a task force, an outstanding job. And 11th grade students got a chance to experience what it would be like if they were texting and driving or got under some other influence such as drugs or alcohol. Obviously, this is an important and impressionable age group as they are learning to drive. We recently had 3 Boston students, Ethan LaCurse, James Thomas, and Teo Ozalanskak from Mrs. Manzo's class. They are regional champs in the NYSEC First and Math virtual contest and are now invited to compete in the finals in Albany on June 13th. Congratulations to both of them. Last week's library literacy celebration at the high school was very well attended by students and parents. There was lots of student work on display. Slocum teacher and author, Ms. Erin Marazzo, presented, and high school student and author Amanda Burley was also featured. Wonderful to see our staff and students highlighted. This past weekend was an outstanding Joe Brandeis girls track and field event Friday and Saturday with about 33 participating schools. Outstanding. And wonderful to host such a hallmark athletic event. This weekend, our distinguished senior football player Vincent Baraka was honored as part of the Golden 11 at a very special event for football scholars by the Football Foundation. His academic and on-the-field achievement has been outstanding this year. The high school Triumph and Order, who are our our art and music boosters, held a beautiful spring recital fundraiser on Sunday at St. John's Church. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you to the high school PTSA for holding their talent auction this past Friday. Nice fundraiser, and I appreciate the opportunity to be their auctioneer. Today, over at the town of Islip, high school senior Haley Green received a Community of Service Award. Very proud of her work with the mental health run as well as with our veterans. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is the Suicide Awareness Varsity Softball game at 3 p.m. out on the varsity softball field. It's a wonderful collaboration with some of our outside service providers and along with our student services department. So we appreciate the varsity softball team for that awareness. And then later that evening, tomorrow, we have our Seal of Biliteracy ceremony at the high school. 99 students being honored for achieving the Seal of Biliteracy. Each year, we always average around 100 students. It's incredible. Oftentimes, we'll have a student who also gets recognized for multiple languages, and that is the case tomorrow as well with one of our students. Absolutely incredible work by our students in our world language department. Thursday at the high school is Personal Financial Literacy Day. A lot of great activities for the students, on personal financial literacy. Friday Idle Hour has their talent show that will be held at OBMS. As we go into next week, RMS and OBMS on the 28th have incoming grade 6 parent orientations. Then on the 29th, we begin the season of concerts. The spring concert season will have over 20 concerts district-wide starting on the 29th. You don't need to have a student to go enjoy some incredible music and a great evening. April 30th, our New York State Science Assessment for grades 5 and 8. And also on the 30th, through our Disabilities Awareness Committee, an Outstanding Disabilities Awareness Fair will be held at the high school from 4 to 6. There will also be a unified basketball game being played. May 1st, RMS and OBMS have their career days. And May 1st and 2nd, the high school has a comedy production. May 3rd is a mental health, the 5K annual mental health run walk. You can register for that online. Then soon after, we have the Athletic Hall of Fame, which is May 9th. And then a very important event as well, Beats for Liam, which is our teen student cardiac screening. You can, please pre-register, but that's on May 16th. And obviously, it's a great opportunity to catch any potential health concerns. And then, as always, we thank our PTA, our SEPTA, our Orber, Athletic Boosters, all of our youth leagues, Rotary, and Civics for all that you do in support of our students, staff, and community. Thank you.
Mental Health Advisory Committee, Mr. Lorenzo, you have. Yep.
Yes, I have a little bit of an update of some things that are coming up. Some of them Dr. Steve actually mentioned. The first one on the list is softball suicide awareness game on the 22nd. Those outside organizations that partnering with, of course, yes, so grateful for that partnership. Northwell and also the Shield Foundation. There'll be tables there. The mental health staff will do very well. The Disability Awareness Fair, as you mentioned, also that's the 30th, which is next Thursday, so that's coming up. Very excited for that. That should be a fantastic event with the Unified Basketball team. The Screenagers event that we had, the video that was showed during that event was sent home to parents where everybody see. It really was fantastic. The way they talked about the effects of the devices on young children down to the elementary level. They came to get them younger and younger. So it really was a fantastic video. Also, there is DEA Drug Take Back Day on the 24th, which is actually it's Friday from 10 to 2. And I know that there will be some of the politicians there, local politicians. And it's basically you can bring any medication, unlike Shed the Med. You can definitely do that. That's going to be at the Community Ambulance Company, which is on Lakeland Avenue in Sayville. That's coming up this Friday between 10 and 2. There are wellness days, mental health awareness days, which are underway for May at the buildings. You mentioned also the mental health 5K run. You did mention that, but by back into the high school. And I'm very excited that we are in the works with Community Wellness Day, one of my absolute favorite events. That's for September. September 26th is what we're penciled in for, 11 to 2. But at the Connecticut Public Library last year, phenomenal. Over 700 people attended. It really was fantastic. So that is definitely something that's in the works. And the April monthly theme for the EASL program, collaboration and teamwork. And of course, we're working with YCAB. We had a meeting recently, Joe Balmoni, for curriculum writing to bring our initiatives into the lower grade. They already did pilot some of them. Hello? Okay, take it back. So we're going to continue to bring that in for the younger students. That's very important. Especially because a lot of it is done by our older high school students. And I think little ones love that. They look up to these older kids. And it's so fantastic that these older students want to do that. They want to give back to the younger kids. And it's a wonderful collaboration.
Great, thank you. I don't see any board event topics. I will just mention our next board meeting is May 10th in Mayo. And at that board meeting, we will give I don't know what's going on with my phone today. We will give any candidates running for this year's election an opportunity to introduce themselves to the community. I'll have the district clerk call you to verify date and time and place in case we move the meeting for some reason. But that will be May 5th, usually 7:30, and she'll go over the rules. There's just a brief introduction of the candidates. And does anybody else have any?
I have a couple of questions. Were candidates all notified to sit down and pull their names?
So,
That's always been done in the
Ms.
past.
Keller did respond to the email. She said yes, when they turned in the packets, she notified them that the polling pick would be today.
Yes, I notified them when they came to pick up or drop off in person, and it's also listed in the candidate packet itself.
Okay. And how do we go about putting on the docket, if not this year, next year, clearly, term limits for Board of Ed members? Let the public determine. How do we go about doing that?
I guess we can, go to the state ed department and see about term limits. I don't know that that's
Can we
saying for
find
board
out?
members, but sure. I can look into that.
Yeah, because if it's a possibility, you know,
Yep, I'll ask. Anybody else have any board discussions? So, does anybody else have another public comment? Because now we're up to the second public comment portion of the agenda. You know the rules. Have at it. Go, number one.
There was a committee this year for anti-bullying. There's a report. Is the committee over it? Is there a consensus or?
We do our committee reports as the committees happen. So between the last meeting and this meeting, there was a mental health committee, which is why we had that update.
I thought it was a special.
There is an anti-bullying committee. But we do updates as they happen.
Is there any way I can get the paperwork on it? Do I have to foil it or?
No. We will get you that information, yes.
Okay, and two, what did you just say, Sarah? Because I forgot.
No, we're not doing,
Oh, I forgot what you said, but I wanted to respond to it, but I forgot. So I was thinking more about.
yes, you said a lot of things today.
No, I'm not talking about the budget.
Oh, term limits.
Term limits. You saying a board member, board person should be on board for 3 years, 6 years?
no, I think it should be determined. I do believe in term limits for everybody. I think it keeps them honest.
Do you know that the best districts on Long Island have board members? I was on it for 24 years. They're on it for 30 some odd years. And one woman has been president for it, older than me. And she's still on the board. You know why?
I still believe in term limits.
Well, that's what your belief, but I don't think you're going to get it because the best of the best districts, the people on the board, 25, 30 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. I was, but I'm
Some
just
of
let me
the
know.
districts have
Okay.
term limits too. 30.
Does anybody else in the audience? Ms. Crazy?
I just want to clarify, some of the not so good districts have people there for 25 years. I think it should be put up to a vote for if it can, clearly,
Yeah, I will definitely look into it and I will get back to you.
and let the public determine.
Sure. Number two. Yeah, you're number three again.
Okay.
I know, we're recycling.
Same card, same the money. We are going to May 7th be at Sycamore Elementary School, 6 to 9. Meet the candidates, questions and answers. All candidates are invited. You've heard it here. So now you know, we're not sending out private invitations. We are going to collect questions from our 3 Civic Association members. It's going to go into a set of people. I am not one of those people. I'm going to get questions, just hand them in. There will be a committee that will decide what questions get answered. My whole part of this with the Greater Ronkonkoma Civic is to be able to provide a building, because we have the paperwork on file to use ConnectWatt facilities. We're right now the only ones who I believe have that ability. So in conjunction with that, I thought we were going to do a meet the candidates at our meeting tomorrow night, but our agenda is now chock full. If you show up and we have time, after 9 o'clock, I gladly give anybody who wants to be there 5 minutes to say, hi, here I am and I'm running. No problem. If you don't, you will see everybody at the May 7th meeting, and it'll be a little bit more formal. So I just wanted to kind of let you know and kind of qualify what looks like is going to happen in the next couple of days.
Thank you. If you could give that information to our district clerk, and I will have her reiterate that to all the candidates when she calls them for our meeting, please. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, you know what? I'll be back Cinco de Mayo.
I love that.
I'll have the hat.
That's your sombrero. I love it.
Yeah, I have.
Can I call for a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.